do you really want to go to the gym?
I want to, but I can't.
Yeah, but I can't is a mental thing. And most people are starting running nowadays because they're saying it improves their mental state. It's got nothing to do about cardiovascular or muscular. It's just they just feel free. I'll say to a patient, if you get 3 out of 10 pain, 10 is very bad, 0 is nothing.
Labor is 10 out of 10.
You always think that a person who's a bodybuilder can have the most amount of explosive power. He's the strongest man. But a lean person can move around a lot better, obviously. There's those chambers that you can get in London, which is just a freezing cold chamber where you have to wear gloves and stuff. But they go to like minus 30. Look, wearing heels builds confidence in females, so let them wear it. It's not a problem.
Welcome to the Visionary podcast, where we discuss science, medicine, physical health, and mental well-being. Mr. Minhal Bandali, you're the Musculoskeletal Director at London Back Pain Clinic. You're also an accomplished physiotherapist. Let's start talking about exercise. Minhal, what does inactive living do to us?
Let's talk about muscular endurance. So if you have an inactive lifestyle, obviously you're not using your muscles as much, so it can make you weaker. It can make you fatigued a bit more. So if you do have to do some sort of activity which takes a prolonged time, your muscles won't be able to you will not be able to utilize that task you need to do for a long period of time. So it fatigues a lot quicker. If you fatigue a muscle, if a muscle fatigues a lot quicker, you're more prone to getting some sort of strains, tears, tissue, ligament tears, tendon tears, things like this. So that's the muscular endurance side. Cardiovascular endurance side, obviously, your cardiovascular system will start decreasing. So if you do have to again do a functional task, which involves you, let's say, this is obviously me over exaggerating a little bit, but let's say you had to walk to the shops, and you had to carry bags, which let's say was a half an hour walk, you might have to take a break in between because your cardiovascular endurance cannot maintain it.
How the lungs are functioning.
How the lungs not taking enough air in, how the heart is pumping the blood around the body as well. Then you've got a mental aspect to it as well. Which is probably quite an important one. People who are inactive, sometimes there's a mental health side to it as well. They can't. Sometimes they feel like they can't accomplish tasks. If they can't accomplish tasks, they might start thinking low of themselves. They might start. I'm not going to say they're going to get depressed because they'd have to do a lot of that to get depressed. But they might have some sort of low mood. So this will obviously affect them wanting to do activities. This will obviously affect maybe their confidence as well. So it kind of plays into all the other two areas as well. I would say they all play a part in all three of them together.
Yes. So I tend to think of 20s and 30s as youth, 40s, 50s as, let's say, middle age. I know this classification might be funny, but I mean, the general conscious 50s and above, senior kind of thing. What I'm trying to say is, should I tailor my exercise on a daily basis based on which stage of life I'm at?
Yes, I would say yes. Now, again, we have to break down this question again. So obviously, once you get more mature, I'm not going to use the word older because everyone's just, how they feel in their mind. So as we get more mature, we have to understand that our muscles and our soft tissue will not be able to tolerate as much as we could when we were more youthful.
That's by default.
Yeah. But when we're 20, 30. So for example, I don't know, let's say someone went to the gym he was 25 and he was benching, 100 kg. They're not going to be able to do 100 kg at 50 years old. It doesn't mean that they stop exercising or stop doing their activities or functional activities or recreational activities. They just need to tailor it a bit more so it maintains the strength that their muscles need to do at that period of time. If you start to be fair, cases that we get in our clinic is we get people who come in who are basically, let's say, who are 45, 50 maybe, who are a bit more mature. They still think in their mind that they can still do an activity, which is what they could do when they were 25 or 30. So an example is, let's say, I could go to the gym and I could, or use bench press example again. I could bench 100 kg when I was younger, but I can't do it now.
And that would be their complaint.
Yeah, that would be their complaint. But obviously, then you have to tailor up their program to the mental aspect and thinking aspect, and letting them know that what you could do then you can't do now. But it doesn't mean you have to stop pushing weights. You just have to tailor a bit more. So that means you would have to obviously decrease the weight. Tissues, muscular tissues, soft tissues. Yes, they get weaker over time. That they get atrophied over time, but it doesn't mean that you have to stop using them. You just have to use them as much as what they can use at that time.
In a different way.
Yeah, so you can maintain the maximum amount of strength that you can do with as time goes on. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. Okay, let's say I run an hour. I still run an hour. I'm 47. I run an hour. But let me give you an example that I can't do that yoga. In my 20s, when I was doing yoga, it's 2.5 hours straight.
Sure.
Now I can't.
Fine.
I just can't. And maybe muscle thing. I don't know. Is it because I didn't maintain the level of activity, so my muscles are not strong enough, or is it natural decline over age and I can't do anything about it?
I would say it's a bit of both. So I'll break it down to a bit of both. So first of all, let's say yoga as an example. Yeah, yoga's like, you put your body in certain positions, so there's a stretching aspect to it. So once you stretch your tissues, obviously they get they stretch, they get elongated. Okay, during over time, the resistance the resistance of that tissue will always start to shorten up. That's naturally what happens over time. The tissues start to shorten because obviously that's just what happens when we get maturer. Okay, now if you maintained yoga, you would try to keep it as in a stretched position as much as possible. So if you stop doing yoga, automatically they will start to decrease in the stretch resistance that they have.
Yeah, and I did stop for a long period of time.
So that's one part of it. So once you get more maturer, you will never be able to. So let's say, for example, you did a hamstring stretch and you could touch your toes. Very unlikely you'll be able to touch your toes when you hit 20 years plus. At 25 and 45, because that's what happens to the tissues and the ligaments and the soft tissues around the other. They always get shortened over time. So it's inevitable that will happen. But you can always maintain the maximum amount as you can achieve by making sure that you carry on doing yoga, twice a day or whatever you do. It's the same example as I said with the person who comes in, mentally they think, oh, I could do this at 20, but I can't do it now. It's just generally that's what happens to the body. It just reduces the amount of the ability that it could do when you get more mature.
Okay. But I should still aim for the maximum capacity of what I can do.
As long as it's pain-free.
Okay.
So
no, injury-free.
Yeah. So for example, this is how injuries occur, to be honest. Okay. So for example, I'll use yoga hamstring stretch as an example again. If you could do a hamstring stretch and you could touch your toes when you're 25, mentally, if you're a competitive nature as well, you're always going to maintain that.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you can always maintain it. You might get to a point where you can, only bring your hands down to your ankles. But because of your competitive nature, you're going to force it to go down to your toes. Now, if your soft tissue has having a reduction in elasticity, you're going to start pulling on the area. If you pull on the area, you're going to then end up getting a tear. That's how an injury occurs. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're of a competitive nature, once the tear heals, once you get to about, I would say 30, 35 plus, the tissues, once they have tears in the areas, you start forming scar tissue in the tissues. So you may not ever be able to reach touching your toes again because of that scar tissue formation. Because of your mental competitive spirit, you're going to try forcing yourself to hit that area again, to touch your toes again. Then you're more risk of getting another injury and forming more scar tissue, and then it's just a round circle. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so it's just
does.
An injury thing. So yeah.
So it's staying in the same line of thinking. Now, assuming that there are no injuries, you're telling me that, let's say, aging or being mature imposes new rules when it comes to sports and exercise. Like, do I have to adopt new practices or sports based on my age and let go of other habits or practices I used to do?
Okay, if I was tailoring a program for someone, I would probably say yes. Now, it's nothing to demotivate someone. It's just to align what they can do now with the age they can do now and what their muscle soft tissue structure is at that level. You can't give the same program to someone who is 20, 25 or 30 to someone who's 50, 55. Although at 20, 25, they were very strong, they could cardiovascular, they could run for a long period of time. Mentally, they're very confident. Obviously, everything declines during the maturing process, maturing age in a person. So obviously, if this all starts to decline, because it naturally will decline, you then have to start tailoring the program that you're doing to potentially a declining state. But also that program that you set for that person has to be in line with what their muscles can achieve, the maximum amount of things that the muscle can achieve at that time as well. So if you know that the tissue can still push 100 kg, let's say 80 kg now at the age of 55, we don't give them a tailoring program where they're only pushing 40 kg. You still want to give them a tailoring program, which we're hitting the max that they can hit for their muscle, which is 80 kg.
How would you know their capacity or capabilities? You just hear what they're saying.
Yeah, this is where a good rehab planner would probably come in. An experienced rehab planner will probably come in. So from a subjective assessment that they provide in, I don't know, a gym or rehab clinic or whatever, they would obviously explain, this is what we do, this is what I've done. You know, you could go at a deeper level, you could take blood, so you can take a look at how much oxygen's in the blood. You could take a look at their diet and everything. You could see how much fuel that they've been giving their body for the last 5 years. Then you can start doing certain testing, muscular testing, cardiovascular testing, but then you have to put all of that together. And this is normally what happens in professional sport. So you look at professional sport, obviously don't quote me on this, this is just what, professional sport is, they look at the person's VO2 max, they look at how much oxygen's in the blood, you know, they look at their sats, etc., things like this. They look at it from every season to season to season. They might see an increase, they might see a decrease. The ones that say they see a decrease for, they'll tailor the training program so they can reach optimum amount that the body can achieve to that specific person, knowing that it might be declining, but they're trying to get their peak amount that they can basically do so they can achieve maximum, you know, gamesmanship or whatever. So you do have to tailor it. If you do an extensive tailor program, you combine all these things together. If you just want to maintain what you're doing at a recreational level, you might just take 1 or 2 or 3 of these aspects.
Hi, I'm Hella, your host today. If you're enjoying what you see, please hit that lovely subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me and my team. Or maybe it's more now. We're still learning, we're still finding our feet, but with your support, we can build this channel. Let's take this journey together, one step at a time. Thank you so much for being part of it. So if I look at things like high impact sports or exercises, because we're addressing the general public and everyday person, so I'm not going to say sports necessarily, exercise, high impact versus low impact. If we're climbing up the walls and doing miraculous things in my 20s, should I switch the high impact sports with low impact sports in my mature years, or just adjust whatever the high impact I should be doing? I mean, how do I manage this dynamic?
Firstly, you need to look at this. Slow impact sports and high impact sports. Slow impact sports will target different parts of your body, different types of your fast twitch fibers, slow twitch fibers, different ways your muscles will explode.
Just to clarify, like swimming, Pilates, yoga, these gentle things.
Well, it depends how you do them. Swimming can be slow impact. You could be using your slow twitch fibers, or you can use your fast twitch fibers. Anything explosive is normally fast twitch. Anything which is aerobic is normally slow twitch fibers that you're using. So slow impact and high impact. Slow impact, you're using different types of muscle twitch fibers. Okay, generally anyway. And high impact, you're using normally your fast twitch fibers. Okay, now let me break this down so it's a bit more easier to understand. If you had Usain Bolt, who I would say does high impact because he's doing 100-meter sprint, it's anaerobic, it's fast twitch fibers. Okay, if you then started telling him at, let's say, 50, 60, you now have to switch to slow twitch, to aerobic exercises. Not saying he couldn't do it, but he has to start using other parts of his MSK system to start using those, and he's never used them before. I'm not saying he hasn't used them before, but very unlikely throughout his training. His body is geared, his muscle memory is based on fast twitch fibers. So then using slow twitch fibers, not saying he can't do it, but he will start have to work a bit harder. Now, if you have to work a bit harder, if you get to that age, you could cause injuries to yourself. So I wouldn't say that you have to start switching from high impact to low impact. I would just say you have to just, again, tailor your exercises, because I'm not saying it's going from one extreme to the other, but you are going from something very different to something very different.
You mentioned injuries. I was told once that I should not run as fast or so long, because running is bad for the knees. And I do get some electric twinges in my left knee. Is running bad for the knees?
I think it depends what profession you ask. If you ask
I'm asking you.
If you ask a physio, okay, they'll say running's not bad. Running, if you do a decent proportionate amount, which is ability for your body, it's not bad. So for example, let's say I run, I don't run, but let's say I did run, I don't know, 10K a week. Yeah. And that's what my body's been accustomed to doing for the last, 5 years to whatever, 5-7 years. If I all of a sudden start running, just forcing myself to do 30K from last week when I did 10K, yes, that's bad, because muscular endurance wise, my body might not be able to take it. Cardiovascular endurance wise, my body might be able to take it. And then obviously there might be a mental aspect to it as well, thinking low confidence. That can get you an injury, and that, I would say, that is bad. Yeah. But if you're just asking from a general perspective, I'm going to go for a run, is it bad for you? No, it's not, because it improves your cardiovascular endurance, it improves your muscular endurance, it improves your mental state. Most people are starting running nowadays because they're saying it improves their mental state. It's got nothing to do about cardiovascular or muscular endurance, they just feel free. So if you ask a physio, I would think running's not bad, no. Okay. In proportion to what your body can do, by the way.
One of the reasons why people stop working out is an injury, typically in their 50s. And an injury that shakes them, puts fears God into them, and they stop working out. What would you say to someone who's scared of movement?
So we get this in the clinic quite a lot, actually. There's people, it's normal as well, it's natural as well. So for an example, someone will come to, we'll use running as an example because we're on topic of running. Someone will come in, they say, okay, I've got some knee pain. I got an injury, I want to go back to running, but I still feel pain in my knee. Can I go and run? You then have to break down their running, and you have to break down their pain perception as well. And you have to break down their thinking as well. So what I would normally say is this. Let's say, for example, your peak running was, let's say, 10K. You ran 3 times a week and it was 10K. At the moment, they're scared to even do 2K. I would get a pain scale for them. So a pain scale basically informs them is when you should run and when you shouldn't run. And it makes them more aware that, okay, during this pain scale diary, I can keep running. And when it gets to this point, I will stop running. So for example, I'll say to a patient, if you get 3 out of 10 pain, 10 is very bad, 0 is nothing. 3 out of 10, you can continue running. But when you get to 6 out of 10, I would stop running, or maybe 5 out of 10, because you're now causing an inflammatory response. So they'll at least know, okay, I can now break this down now. So the pain that I was feeling, maybe it is just 2 out of 10. I can continue running because my health practitioner said, yes, you can continue running. That now builds confidence in the person. If they say, okay, now you know what? They come back and they say, you know what? I did 5K and then it got to 6 out of 10. Then we can at least tell them, now you can at least run 5K because we know that you can run 5K. That then builds confidence again in them. Does that make sense? So it's about breaking down their pain perception, their mental concept, and making them understand their body a bit more. It becomes quite a bit harder when you have to actually analyze what they perceive as 2 out of 10 and what you should perceive as 2 out of 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I can't imagine 10 out of 10 or 9. I don't want to be closer to that in any way.
Yeah, so we then have to break that down even more. So for example...
Labor is 10 out of 10.
So labor...
In perspective.
Yeah, so 10 out of 10 is, I'm in so much pain, I need to chop my knee off. That's what 10 out of 10 is. Yeah, so that's what most health practitioners consider it as that. 0 out of 10 is obviously no pain. So you have to break down that VAS score even more and more. And then we have to just basically plan their functional day-to-day tasks so they understand what pain is and what pain isn't. Sometimes you have to go to, if it gets, sports players, sometimes they have to see a sports psychologist for this. And I think normally sports psychologists help them understand what pain is so they can actually get back to their normal, professional recreational sports that they do.
We don't usually think of muscles when we think longevity. 10 years ago, when I heard muscles, I thought, okay, bodybuilders. And I've always assumed that they take something naughty or illegal to build muscles, and it's just for them, bodybuilders, not for us. Does good muscle mass, strong muscle mass, help me live longer and better?
Live longer, or do we mean recreational longer? So live longer meaning, okay.
Be functional and run after and chase my grandchildren and be able to carry my shopping bags and do hiking trips, nothing dramatic or massive, have good quality of life.
So quality of life.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So when we say live longer, you could be the strongest man in the world and the next day have a heart attack.
Oh,
so does that make sense? So we're talking about quality of life here. So
live better then.
Yeah, I would say overall, yes, because you can perform functional tasks better. And you can, your joints and your muscles, there'll be more elasticity within them, so you can move around a bit better. It will make you a bit more flexible. However, I will say this: if you are a bodybuilder, yes, you're strong, so your quality of life will obviously there'll be longevity in terms of strength wise. But when you say running after my kids, that's more cardiovascular based. So I would say a bodybuilder, from a strength perspective, can I be strong for my kids longevity wise? Yes. But cardiovascularly, can I run and play football with my kids and run after them? That I might have to say no for that. So having big muscles or big strong, yes, it does obviously have its benefits, but there's different types of benefits, and sometimes it can cause a negative.
While researching this episode, I've come across something called lean muscle mass.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I've always assumed that muscle mass, it's muscle, it's lean, right?
So lean muscle mass is basically when you've got good strength, but you're very toned as well. So
what is the difference? How do I use?
So you see those bodybuilders, with the big strong arms. I wouldn't say they're lean. A lean person is normally like a runner, so they're explosive power, and you can, but their muscles are lean, so you can actually flexible. You can still move around, but you can still provide the same amount of power that you wouldn't think you'd be able to provide, because they're a bit more smaller. You always think that a person who's a bodybuilder can have the most amount of explosive power. He's the strongest man. But a lean person can move around a lot better, obviously, but they can also produce power as well. That's normally what lean means. Yes. Now, to get lean muscle, it's a different type of training method. If you want to build muscle and be the big strong man, you normally push as heavy as you can, but with minimal reps. Yeah, with minimal reps. So, for example, we'll use bench press as an example again. So, if you want to build, big strong chest muscles, whatever, you would push, let's say the maximum you can push is between 100 and 120. You would straight away go to 110, and you would do maybe 2 reps or 3 reps and max out what you can in those very 1-2 reps. If you want to get lean muscle mass, it's more about high repetitions. So for example, let's say you can push 120, but I'm only going to push 80. But or 70. To be fair, to be honest, 70 and 80 is still quite a lot. So that's probably a bad
sounds
example.
A lot to me.
It's a bad example. But anyway, you're pushing a lot less, but you're doing high repetitions. That's how you start building lean muscle mass.
Okay, I see. But let's talk about regular people, no bodybuilders. The average weight, tight on budget and time. They work out just for mental health and pleasure. We have a number of options for them. Again, very, very simplified. We have flexibility-based exercises like Pilates and yoga, let's say. We have high impact like sports, for running or some racket, tennis kind of thing. And this is to build like the cardiac machine kind of thing. And there is also the gymnastics. I doubted that someone my age will do gymnastics. If I do gymnastics, I'll break a hip. And there is the strength. Oh God! I see my child doing gymnastics, and it's not for me. And there is the strength training, which might include lifting weight. Now, if I'm aiming again for longevity, which means to live better, which part of these categories should I focus on? Let's say, because you like specific things, middle age.
Okay, so again, you have to break it down a little bit again. Yes. So if you do one, you're going to target that specific muscle group, cardiovascular group, but that means you might take away some of the aspects on the other group. So for example, like I gave the example before, like, okay, if you do the strength training, you might be big and strong, but then if you don't do the tennis racket playing, you might not improve your cardiovascular system. So you might be quality of life when you get more mature, you might be able to lift a bit more, but you might not be able to run around with your kids a lot more. So you kind of need to think which one you want to do. Me personally, I would do this. I would try to put a mixture in all of them when you do it. So if you go to the gym, you can do your strength training, but you can always add in doing high reps but low weights, because that will help with you getting lean, getting explosive, building muscle, and it also helps with keeping your muscles at a good elastic area. So I think you can tailor a program to involve all of them. I wouldn't say you have to do one
It would
specific.
take a long time.
Yeah.
We're
I don't
tight
think
on
so.
time.
No,
No?
I don't think so.
How
No.
would you, we have a week and we have, let's say 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening.
So you could change up. So you could basically do a plyometric exercise or a HIIT exercise on one day. Yeah. The next day you could do or 2-3 days down the line, you have half an hour. You could do a strength session. Half an hour, 2-3 days later, you could play football. So I'll give you what I do, because I try to involve all of them. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I play football. Yeah.
That's cardiac.
That's cardio. That's cardio. So that's for my cardiovascular system. Every other week, I have a personal training session, which involves plyometric work or HIIT workouts. Yeah. Okay. So that's a fast-paced endurance workout, but with obviously muscular endurance involved as well. And then I try to go to the gym, 3-4 times a week if I can. Obviously, this sounds like a lot, but you can actually do it. So I think if you involve all of them within your training, if you can, and involve all those types in the type of training that you're doing, it's quite maintainable. Now, I understand if you have kids. I work 12-hour shifts. You might not be able to, but it doesn't mean you have to do it every single day. Like you could say, okay, fine, I'm going to try do 3 times a week or 2 times a week. Let's say 2 times a week, because the average person who has a family and kids work, they might be able to do 2 times a week. If you just play football that week or some sort of sports, that's your cardiovascular system. But it's also some sort of your muscular endurance system, because you're kicking a ball. If you're playing tennis, you're still hitting the ball with the racket. That still involves muscle. Then the other day, if you say, okay, fine, I'm either going to do a plyometric session at the gym or I'm just going to do strength training at the gym. Yeah. Obviously, you won't get as to the best of ability as someone who's doing 5 days a week or 7 days a week, but you're still getting somewhere and you're still being able to involve all areas. So I would say you're better off doing that.
Yeah. So you're telling me that I should mix it up.
I would advise to mix it up.
How about my energy level? Like sometimes, especially at the weekend, because I act like a weekend warrior, if you've ever heard of that. During the week, I do the best I can during the week, but really limited time. So I work out Friday afternoon, Saturdays and Sundays. At the end of Sundays, I lose energy. So I can't imagine I'm just really low on energy.
Yeah. Okay.
Despite the workouts, but I work out 3 days in a row. Is it because it's day after day after day and there's no spacing? I don't give my muscles a chance to bounce back?
It depends what activities you're doing. So if you're talking about strength training, going to the gym and lifting, then I would 3 days a week in a row is probably quite a lot, because sometimes you do have to give your muscles time to recoup. Because obviously you can, if you have a very hard session the day before, your muscles might be fatigued, and then you go do it again, then you might be able to get an injury. Let's take the average person. Let's say they do they do an 8-hour shift at work. They do an 8-hour shift at work. They go home, they get tired, and they're thinking, I can't be bothered to go to the gym. It happens
decision fatigue.
Yeah, it happens to everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
I would personally say that's more of a mental aspect. Do you really want to go to the gym?
I want to, but I can't.
Yeah, but I can't is a mental thing, because if you're not physically injured, so you can go to the gym. Yeah. You're not muscular endurance wise, you haven't affected that anyway, so you can go to the gym. Cardiovascularly wise, you've just done an 8-hour shift, so your cardiovascular is still there. So that's not stopping you going from the gym. This is more of a mental aspect, meaning I just can't be bothered. So yes. I think, which is the truth. It's fine. It happens. I do as well. I did it the other day. So it's no shame on anyone. But that I would say that's more of a mental aspect, meaning I just can't be bothered. So I think.
How would I overcome that? I'll tell you a really funny story. When now usually I meet my child. She leaves school and she goes to the playground. I meet her there and she plays in the playground, and I run around the park. Sure. Right. So in the morning I should be in my gear, my sports clothes. Along the day, I would have a million reasons not to run at the end of the day. I have to coax myself every step of the way, even when I'm there in the park, getting ready, a mom talking to me can would stop the whole process. So how can I persevere? I have the tendency to yo-yo with my routine. Of course, it is mental. What do I tell myself?
That's a difficult question.
You're not a psychologist.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I would be quite blunt about it and just say, just get on with it and do it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can say. However, some people might not like being blunt. So you could try to break it down. So okay, let's say you're going for you're taking your kid to the park. You're taking your kid to the park. Maybe just wear something that will mentally think, I'm in exercise clothing, I might as well do something. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you go to the park and your kid's playing in the park and you go in like some baggy tracksuits, you just might just want to sit down and say, I'm just sitting down.
Yeah.
But if you wear nice trainers, or if you wear some sort of sporting clothing, you might think, you know what, I'm in my sporting clothing, I might as well just do something. So you might have to attach something to the activity that you're about to do to mentally think, I'm in this realm already.
Yeah.
I might as well just do something. Now, if you do something, it might be 10 minutes, it might be 15 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, but it's better than doing no minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
So
yeah, I tend to be rigid in my thinking.
Yeah.
I run for an hour or I don't
yeah.
run,
So
kind of thing.
I'll give you an example. Yesterday, because I knew I was coming here, and I needed to get. So I went to play football on Monday. I did a personal training session on Tuesday, and I was planning to go to the gym on Saturday, Sunday, because Friday, obviously, today we're having this discussion. So I said I need to get myself to the gym. So I went to work in my gym clothes, obviously presentable. I went to work in my gym clothes, so I'd kind of told myself I'm going straight to the gym after work. So that's the little things you can do to push yourself to going forward. Because I know if I went home first and I sat on the sofa, I would probably be in the same position as everyone else. And I can say to everyone, I can just be blunt about it, say, get on with it. But even I fall into that trap of just sitting down on the sofa. So I got into my gym clothes. I wore it to work. And then whenever someone said to me, like my patient said to me, you look sporty today, I was like, yeah, I'm going to the gym after work. So I kept telling myself that. So that's a way you can overcome it.
You feel really ashamed of yourself at the end of the day if you don't
go.
That wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
So if I have a minor concern, like a joint ache or a slightly back pain, but I don't have a serious injury and I don't need medical attention, is a solution to do more sports or less?
Okay, so when a patient comes to us and asks that, I always say this: carry on doing what you're doing. Yeah. If there's an activity that causes you pain or the inflammation increases, just stop that one and report that one back to me. So I would say you can continue doing what you're doing, yeah, as long as it's pain-free, as long as it's not stopping you from doing the exercise, as long as you feel functionally, physically fit to do the other exercise, well, you can continue doing it. But just monitor it. Because obviously, if let's say, for example, you go to the gym and you do a series of exercises, there could be that one exercise that does flare it up. So obviously, we know that exercise is causing a problem. And then when you report it back to your health practitioner, then he can at least know that, okay, you did that exercise. Let's say, I don't know, it's biceps curl. Yeah, then we know that something within that biceps curl is causing a problem. Then we can break that exercise down and say, maybe your posture's not right. Maybe try seating. Maybe try low weight for now. Something like that, so we can break it down even more. Just so it doesn't get into the realm of, I'm going to get an injury.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I only started working out at the age of 24.
Yourself?
And, yeah. I've never, I grew up in a very conservative Muslim community.
Fine.
We weren't allowed to do anything.
Fine. So I'll tell you something about that. Now, again, this is not for everyone. This is just what we've seen at the clinic as well. So I started going to the gym when I was 15, 16. Not obviously doing mad things, but as in just going to the gym. Yeah, treadmill, bit of bicep curls at low repetitions. When you start training at the age of, let's say, younger age of, let's say 15, 16, or even before that, you were doing sports activities and things like that. Your body is adapted to activities. Is adapted to building muscle. Your muscle memory is there, and you're kind of in your peak as well. I would say between the ages of 18 and maybe even 16, to be honest, 16, 17, 18 to the ages of 24 to 25, you're kind of in your peak realm there of sports-wise, activity-wise, muscular endurance, cardiovascular endurance. So your body gets used to that. Okay. When you start going to the gym, when you're 24, 25, 26, this is when the body starts to decline. Now, everyone's different, by the way, so I'm not saying you declined, I declined. Everyone's different, but that's what stats normally shows, that the body starts to decline. So
in terms of muscle mass or bone
muscular endurance,
fragility?
cardiovascular endurance, the bone density and things like that. That's when the degenerative changes sometimes starts. Okay. So when you go to the gym at that age, now obviously there's a social aspect of I need to look fit now. I'm 24, 25. I'm coming to my peak time zone. So they start going to the gym and start lifting heavy weights. Wrong form starts happening. The body's, I'm not saying it's on a decline, but it's starting on a decline. So the muscle.
You're saying 20s and declining?
Not 20s. I said, yeah, so 20, but 24, 25, the body starts to decline then, yeah. It's when it's, so for example, you see a football player, what's the average age, when do they retire? 32?
Yes.
Don't count Ronaldo, but if you take him out, yeah, but it's about 32. A sports person normally stops about, sometimes 29, 30, 31, 32, but they're in their peak between the ages of, I would say 19 and 24. That's
a very small window.
Yeah, it is a very small window. Their experience as a player is better when they're 26, 27, 28. But sometimes their physical, it's their experience that makes them look sometimes makes them look a lot better, but their peak physical capabilities around that age. So anyway, going back to my point is, if they start to decline and they need, when I mean decline, I don't mean rapidly declining. I'm just mean this is where the aspects. So when they start pushing a lot of weight, their form gets bad because they're trying, maybe mentally, they're trying to push what they think they could push when they were 20. They can't. This is how injuries occur. So I always say it's better to start doing some sort of physical activity early. So
childhood.
I started playing sports when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. This is sports, not gym, obviously. So if you start early, your body's adapted to that. It's known to that. Mentally, you're known to that. When you need to go back to the gym, you don't have this aspect of I'm tired, because you know what the benefits it will get to you. You also have a lot of muscle memory as well. So if you do stop going to the gym, because that's your body's norm, you can build all of those things up very quickly again. If you start when you're 24, 25, 26, as I said, this is not for everyone. This is what normally stats shows anyway. You're not going to build up. There's no muscle memory to build up. So then you have to start from the beginning.
Let's go back to adults. If I gain weight, how will that affect my bones and muscles?
Okay, if you gain weight, how does it affect your muscles? So if it affects your muscles, in a few ways, you'll fatigue your muscles a bit quicker.
Because of the load?
Could be because of the load, because obviously, although you're lifting muscle, but you're also lifting fat as well. So whatever you're lifting, you might have to have more strength to be able to do it. So that means you might fatigue it a bit quicker. That means you might get yourself in an injury. The same with, obviously, this is the same, obviously, muscular endurance. Your muscular endurance will basically reduce. In terms of bones, yes, you've got more load on your bones. Your flexibility will can decrease. So that means when you go for a jog, or when you walk down the road and there's something like a pothole or something, your proprioception normally kicks in when there's a pothole. But if there's a lot more weight mass on you, the proprioception has to work harder, meaning that you might lose your balance a bit. You might lose your balance now. That could obviously result in injury. And obviously the biggest thing is OA. When you have a lot of weight on your joints, there's more chance of bone on bone rubbing. That's why surgeons normally say, look, can you just try to lose weight? You might be able to avoid surgery.
Minhal, I've learned from the clinic's website that you guys are big fans of holistic approaches. We talk about stress a lot in the Visionary podcast, mainly because it's the one thing that I haven't cracked in life. I'd like to know from you today, does stress slow down the recovery process?
Yeah, it does. So
tell me the mechanism. How does it do that?
All the examples I've given you have been a combination of things. So when you say, how do I improve my quality of life? I said, if you involve cardiovascular muscular endurance and mental aspects, it will give you a better quality of life. So when you say the holistic approach in the clinic, everything is within each other. So for example, let's say you have an injury, you come in, let's say you have a disc bulge in your back, you come in with a disc bulge, and I see that, okay, yes, there's obviously a physiological issue going on, but if you're overweight, you will need to go see the dietitian, because that's going to help you as well. Yeah. Okay, you're overweight, that's going to have a mental health issue in you as well, maybe. Yeah. You need to go see the psychologist. So that's what a holistic approach is. So you're trying to identify areas which could have an effect on the disc bulge, and you're trying to trying to help assist in the most positive way. And that's what a holistic approach is, and that's the benefits of seeing other disciplinaries, because I could help you with your disc bulge, but if you're overweight and you're not doing anything about that, most likely the disc bulge is going to come back. If you're low in confidence, normally people in low confidence, they eat a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
They snack a lot. So they're not going to lose weight. The disc bulge will come back. So it's a holistic approach. Stress is a very broad, there's different answers to stress.
I would say not chronic stress, because let's say the average stress that we struggle from, we don't sleep well, we eat lots, not the everyday light kind of stress.
Fine. So,
not the positive
fine.
stress.
So stress is your thinking, right? So you overthink sometimes. When you're in stress, you're thinking about certain things. That's what causes you
Concerns,
potentially to get
fears, anxiety.
That's what potentially gets you to get stressed, is you're overthinking about certain things that has an effect in a negative way. So let's say you have a lower back pain, yeah, and it's been chronic, and now you're stressed out about it. Okay. Does it have an effect? Yes, it does have an effect, because everything you do will potentially cause you pain. Then everything you do will then start causing you stress. Can I start doing this activity? No, because it's going to cause me it's going to cause me pain. Now I'm thinking about it. Can I, should I eat this food? If I eat this food, sometimes it gives me lower back pain. Now you're stressed about what I can eat. Then from a functional day-to-day task, let's say you have kids or something, it will start getting to the stage that I can't even look after my kids, because if I look after my kids let's say I pick them up once a day and it hurts my back, now I can't even look after my kids. So that all has an effect on that, all is stress related. And yes, so that's how it affects your recovery. That's how it affects physiological problems, and that's how it affects medical conditions as well. Yeah. So stress has a major impact on all this. Yeah. Normally when you have a person with stress, you would always have it with aligned with another health practitioner, whether it's something CBT related, psychotherapy related, psychology related. Normally they're the best ones to normally break it down. Okay, they're having an impact on eating this, send them to a dietitian as well. Physical aspect, send them to a physiotherapist, send them to a rheumatologist. So stress always has a holistic approach. It's never one person approach.
Yes. How about sleep? I've noticed that if I'm not slept well, exercise is way harder. Is there a direct link between poor sleep and maybe muscle strain, inability to optimize performance, these kind of things?
Yeah, if you don't get enough sleep, obviously your body hasn't recovered. Let's say you go to the gym one day, you do a lot of things at the gym, yeah, and you have 4 hours sleep. Your body needs to recover. It hasn't recovered. So the next day you go back and do your normal day-to-day tasks, your body feels tired because muscular hasn't recovered, cardiovascular hasn't recovered, mentally hasn't recovered. So obviously when you have less sleep, it's going to impact all of these 3 areas. You'll get a bit more lethargic, you'll feel a bit more groggy, you'll feel a bit more fatigued throughout the day. That then has an effect on your mental aspect. So direct link, I would say yes. From the examples I just mentioned, I think having sleep is the right amount of sleep. Now, I don't know what the right amount of sleep is. Everyone's different, by the way. But having a good amount of sleep to help your body recover for the activities you're about to the next day or the activities you've just done, I think it's quite important.
Yeah. How about recovery? Let's say I work out and now I have the lovely muscle strain. Tell me one thing, one safe, no fuss technique or habits that I can do safely at home to speed up the recovery process.
One thing.
2 or 3.
Okay, so if you're injured, basically.
No, I'm not injured. I just had my lovely exercise and I want to recover.
I think ice is probably a good thing.
There is a debate going on online now about ice
heat and cold.
Heat and cold. How do we decipher that? Is it individual? Or a muscle is a muscle?
I think it's just pure based on evidence. There's lots of evidence that say ice is good, lots of evidence that say heat is good. If you have an acute injury, ice is always better than heat. Ice obviously reduces the amount of leakage of the blood in an inflammatory response. That's a good thing. However, from recovery from sport, so
normal workout.
Yeah, normal workout. You see people do ice baths. Why they normally do it is because is to stop the lactic acid buildup from the activity that they've done. So when you cover yourself with ice, do an ice bath or whatever, it closes up the blood vessels. So there's no blood. There's limited blood going to the area. But when you get out of it and your body goes to normal temperature, the blood rushes to that area. So then the blood is obviously providing oxygen and things like that. So it eliminates the potential of lactic acid buildup for the next day. That's why people normally do ice baths.
Yes, there are some people online who swear by it. Are you a fan of that recovery technique? How cold should the water be for this to be effective? I come from a warm country.
So normally people, again, it's different. Normally people do about minus 30 degrees. So there's those
minus 30 degrees.
Minus 30. There's those chambers that you can get in London, which is just a freezing cold chamber where you have to wear gloves and stuff. But they go to like minus 30.
And the body can sustain that.
Yeah, but they don't sit in there for a long time or standing there. It's literally like for seconds. Because if you sit in there for too long, then obviously you're going to have some health problems with that. But
I can just put my finger in 10 Celsius and then
you won't be able to just put your finger, but you have to go in your body. But that's why even with an ice bath, obviously that goes, I don't know how that cold goes to that, but what's that, probably -5, -10, I would say, something like that. They sit in there for about, 2-3 minutes maybe, and then get back out. So you're not in there for a long period of time. What you're saying about the heat as well.
Yeah, yes. I'm okay with a sauna.
Yeah, I'm okay with
for
that.
as long as it takes.
I'm not a fan of cold, so you would never see me in an ice bath.
I'm notorious for showering in very, very hot water. But the claim that I can't wrap my head around is that ice bath reduce inflammation. Is that true? And how does that happen?
No, it does, because obviously when you have an inflammatory response, you have leakage of blood vessels and things like that. So the ice, because it acts as a vasoconstrictor, it stops that. So it stops the inflammatory process. In a
specific part of the body or my entire body?
No, what happens obviously with your nervous system will start telling your brain that this is happening. Okay. So it will go throughout the whole part, but obviously where the injuries happened, it will obviously target that area.
Okay, I've also read that, and I'm quoting here so no one thinks I know what I'm talking about, that cold water temporarily numbs nerve endings, which can lower pain and swelling.
Cold, you say?
Cold, yeah, we're still at the cold.
Yeah, because obviously if you put yourself in cold area, it obviously, it does, it numbs the area. It has an effect on the nerves. It sends signals to the brain. It tells the brain that that this area is temporarily it's not having effect of the sensation that you're supposed to be having. Okay. So obviously it can have effect on the pain gate theory as well. So you don't feel pain.
Okay, but is it a long-lasting effect?
No, it's not a long-lasting effect. No.
I'm trying to build the case against ice bath.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think you can build a case against. I think ice bath is a good thing. Okay. I personally wouldn't do it. I can't stand cold, but it's not a bad thing, and there is good evidence to show that it does work. And from a physiological effect and the studies that have been shown, it's not. I don't think you build a case.
No, I would fail. Absolutely, yeah. And there is evidence, like studies I've read, how it affects the brain. I know that this is out of your realm, but apparently it's very, very good for the brain.
That I might need to read up on, but yeah.
I know. My nan used to tell me, sit up straight. Not in a very nice way, I have to say. Now, all of us might be office workers, really. Seated at least 8-9 hours. And if also, this is being kind, because I didn't count the stuff that we do on our computers in the evening. Now, is it valid or still good advice to sit straight, completely straight for 19 hours?
Firstly, I don't think anyone can sit up straight for 9 hours. It's very difficult to do. But what you can do is you can try to assist yourself to sit up as long as possible. Now, that's why ergonomics is there. Now, okay, how do you break this down even more? So we always say to each other, have good posture. You need to sit up straight.
What is a good posture?
This is the thing. This is what I was going to say. What is a good posture? Yeah. Good posture for me could be just slouching like this. Good posture for someone else could be sitting upright. Now, if you haven't sat upright for, let's say, 5 out of your working years, and someone tells you to sit upright, you're going to start activating different muscle groups, which are not in sync with the other ones that normally sit upright. You'll end up fatiguing those ones, and you might end up getting an injury. So it's very difficult to tell someone you need to start sitting upright, because they might not be able to, and they might just not feel that good for themselves, as in they might just feel uncomfortable. If I've sat in this position for my whole entire life, this is not
Yes.
great posture, but whatever. But yeah, if I've sat in this position my whole entire life and I feel comfortable in this position and I've never got an injury or something, then I'll just keep sitting in this position. Why would I change something because someone's told me to change it after 5 years and start activating different muscle groups that could potentially get me into an injury? What I normally say to patients is this. Let's take a look at your ergonomic setup. So I always look at the chair first. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if you're in finance, you're looking at 3, 4, 5 different screens. Okay. Sometimes you have a screen down here. Sometimes you have a screen up there, left to right. I always say, make sure you have a headrest on your chair. There's going to be times where you feel very lethargic, tired. Yeah. If you don't have a headrest, yeah, you're going to end up slouching on the chair to rest your head. Does that make sense? That's where injuries can occur because now you're putting more load on your back. But if you have a headrest, you're maintaining your normal position and you're just putting your head back. Does that make sense?
Okay, and that would prevent me from...
That would prevent you from slouching,
back.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, slouching, put a load on the back. So I always look at ergonomics. I always look at that chair, their chair. Because you got to remember, some office spaces, offices, they don't let you change the chair. Some people are hot desking. So ergonomics is quite a wide topic.
Ideally, for me not to get maybe back pain or stiff, should my shoulders be back and down, hopefully neck? How do I navigate this?
Yeah, fine.
Do I relax?
No, so I'll explain. So, okay, chair-wise, yeah. Chair-wise, I would always say, you get those chairs with the lumbar back support. That's number one. That's good to have on a chair.
Lumbar back support.
So the lower back support, sometimes it curves in, or sometimes there's like there's like a pillow you can sometimes put there.
Yes.
That's good because that obviously keeps the lower back supported. You have to look at your desk as well. So when you ask about shoulders, yeah, you have to look at the desk as well. Ergonomics, normally they say that the armrest should be in line with the chair. That stops you from leaning forward, protracted shoulders. That stops you from doing that stops obviously sometimes from your neck going forward as well.
Yes.
Your eye screen level. Some people different what they say, but I think it's better to have the eyes at the middle of the screen. Some people say it should be better at the top. I think middle of the screen because it limits the chance of you doing this too much.
Yes.
Because you're always going to look at the middle of the screen most of the time. Very small amount of time you're going to look at the bottom just when you press start on the Microsoft Windows or whatever. So it limits all of those type of chances to have an effect, have a negative effect on you getting an injury.
What do you think of standing discs? Good or bad?
I think they're pretty good. I think it's not a bad thing. Again, if you are working at your desk and you're working for 8 hours straight, most disc bulges in backs happen because of the amount of time people are sitting at their desks. Obviously, bad posture. They're putting the load on the disc. When they get up, they're putting a load on the disc at that 45-degree angle. If you have a standing desk, at least you can sit or stand, and you can change your position every 45 minutes. That then stops the load going onto the back on the disc on the lower back, and it just resets itself as well. So I think standing desks are a good thing. I wouldn't stand the whole entire time, but I would go from sitting to standing.
Yes.
Maybe every 45 hours.
I think of posture as a house of cards. Misalign a few pieces.
Yeah, I think posture is a very wide topic, and I think it's based on people's individuality. There's not one rule for one person, and there's not one rule for everyone.
My aim now is just to undo, hopefully in the evening, the damage that I've caused my body while sitting 8 hours. Because even if I'm in my best behavior, trying to sit properly, I can't maintain that. Right. So what would I do? Yeah, what would I do in the evening?
I would do the opposite. So if you've been sitting down for 8 hours, I'm not saying you go for a run for 8 hours, but you make sure you're active for at least 4 hours. Active doesn't mean doing exercises. Active just could mean doing the dishes or cleaning this.
I'm happy hearing you say that.
Or playing with your kids, or just making yourself moving.
Okay. So I love your positivity. So do you think if I work out 1 hour, let's say Pilates, yoga, running, swimming, whatever, 1 hour a day, this might give me some benefits that would counter the effect of long sitting?
I think so, yes. I think whatever you do, any sort of activity you do for 1 hour, it will definitely counter the sitting down for 8 hours. I think so, yeah. Because you got to remember, when you're sitting down for 8 hours, you're in a certain position, there's minimal movement. Then if you do 1 hour of strenuous activities or activity, recreational, whatever, or however much activity you want to do, you're now moving again. So you're kind of resetting the whole body again. 8 hours sitting doesn't mean you need to do 8 hours of activity. You can always just do 1 hour, half an hour. But as long as you do something, it's fine. Because you got to remember, the minute you get out of your desk, you're doing some sort of functional movement. You know, the minute you start walking back to your house or getting changed or, you know, doing the dishes or cooking, anything, it's still functional activity. So you are still moving your joints again.
There are these posture vests, Correctors online. They're very cheap on Amazon. And there are loads and loads of them.
So when you said misconception, I probably should have added that. So, okay. All right. I'll be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with them. Yeah. I actually recommend them to patients if they're in an acute pain. Because if you're in acute pain, you can't position yourself in a certain way. And let's say you have an activity to do that day, which means you have to be in that certain position or certain standing pose or something. Then I say wear the belt. It's not a problem. Yeah. If you are in, let's say, you know, we mentioned the pain scale before. Let's say you're an 8 out of 10 and it's stopping you from doing your functional day-to-day tasks and it's having an effect on your mental health and your confidence, then wear the belt. If it makes you feel bad, it's not a problem. However, long-term wise, I wouldn't wear it because it then ends up doing the job of the muscles. So when you do take it off, you might feel a bit more weaker and that could maybe affect you from having another injury. Or the weakness could obviously make you mentally think what's going on here. So I would say short-term, it's not bad, but long-term, I wouldn't wear it long-term. And I would advise against it long-term, to be honest.
What about those killer red heels? Is that good for my legs, my back?
The Louboutins?
The heels.
The red heels?
Yeah, shoes.
Shoe, the Louboutins.
I can't wear them right now, to be honest. It's a balance kind of thing. I'll fall and break a hip.
With those, obviously, because you're on your heels, you're probably tensing your glutes up and you put a bit of an arch on your back when you wear those as well. Yeah. I think if you wear it for a long time, yes, it can have an issue because you are shortening the tissues a bit. So when you do take them off, they will have to go back to this normal state, which will be a stretch, more of a stretch state. And when you're in the shortening position, it could tighten up and that could cause an injury. But this is only if you wear them for a long period of time. How long do people wear heels for?
I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'm not in that category. But in my younger days, 20s, whole evening is 4 or 5 hours.
That's fine. I wouldn't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
If you have look, wearing heels builds confidence in females, you know, so let them wear it. It's not a problem. Okay. What was I going to say? If you have a disc bulge and you have an injury, or you have some sort of pathology going on, obviously depending on where it is, then someone might advise you don't wear heels for now. Sometimes we actually use heels as an outcome measure, meaning, okay, I can't wear heels because it's causing me pain. Okay, how big are your heels? 6 inches or something like that. Okay, let's start with 1 inch heels. Let's see, and then build yourself up. So we actually use heels as an outcome measure when treating patients. If heels is something that they want to get back into wearing, it's actually quite a good one, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.